Instead, let us look at what he is now and would be tomorrow. Everybody deserves a chance in life. I'm sure you would agree. Don't try and condemn a person just so. It's true, will I not be?
If you see a man you know that was bad,
Real bad,
turning on your leaf where you should feel glad.
so glad.
Encourage and help him to get along, instead of trying to pull him back down.
No,
That's wrong.
If at any time someone needs your help and you turn and walk away, in my book that is a serious offense. I don't care what you say. Don't eat, drink and laugh with me and behind the shoe in me name. Don't call me a brother man when you know you won't be playing games.
If you see a man you know that was bad,
Real bad,
turning on your leaf where you should feel glad.
so glad.
Encourage and help him to get along, instead of trying to pull him back down.
No,
That's wrong.
This is Caribbean Vibes.
Good morning and welcome to Eye on Dependency. Today we're bringing you a story that we don't often hear. When we talk about addiction, most of the voices we hear belong to men. But the reality is women struggle as well. Their experiences can look and feel very different.
That is why we're really grateful to have Neela with us this morning. She has been in recovery for almost 10 years after struggling with substance misuse as a poly addict. Her journey is powerful and it's honest, and she's agreed to share it with us today. Not just the struggles, but also the hope she's found in recovery.
And while we bring in Neela's story, we'll also be sharing photos and short videos from our recent trip to Collins Bay Institution and the Penitentiary Museum, giving you a look inside another side of the correction system in Canada.
So let's get into it and introduce Miss Neela Birjah.
Right, and Nila,
Hi,
thank you very
good
much.
morning. Thank you for the
Morning.
invitation, the warm invitation. And it's really nice to be here. I've met both persons who sit in the room with me today, and I respect you both a lot. So I'm really happy to share my story with you and the audience that listens.
Well, as a fellow, if I should use the term in this context here, as a fellow addict, you know, I too as well always fascinated by stories, you know, as one of our taglines says, every life is a biography,
Yeah.
which it is.
Mm-hmm.
And
Every test is a testament. Every mess is a message.
we all have stories to tell, right?
Yeah.
We all have journeys. Some people pretend that there was, peachy and squeaky clean.
Mm-hmm.
And there are those of us who told the public, no, ours won't.
Yeah.
We had human feelings, and just like any other human being, we have shortcomings. We're not perfect. And some of us made wrong choices. And we have a story to tell because of those wrong
And
choices.
sometimes,
that we made.
it's not really a choice. Sometimes we kind of, depending on how we grew up and the environment that we grew up around, it was just all that we knew. So, for instance, there are victims of circumstance, and I was also a victim of circumstance from a young age, being exposed to what was normal, quote unquote, behavior,
Well,
which is
as-
take a drink for everything,
Right.
take a what is legal. Alcohol is probably one of the most cunning and devious substances because
Yes.
it's found everywhere. Trinidad and Tobago, we are party
And socially
island.
acceptable.
Yeah, it's socially acceptable. In fact, in my almost 10 years in recovery, it is socially unacceptable to be a teetotaler, to say no to a drink, to hold a bottle of water in a fete, because I still like to party and do other things that I would have done before, you know. So
Yes.
those are sometimes it's not a choice. I didn't
Okay.
choose to become a person suffering with substance use disorder, but it was thrust upon me at a very young age that it was normal until my brain didn't really function well under the substances. So therefore, it progressed.
So we'll get into that in a
Yeah.
moment, because of see, we love doing this because we've heard ignorant comments about a person feeling that they have to be weak to be an addict, and so we try our best to
Yes.
debunk that in every which way that we can to not make people think that you're less than and you're weak if you become addicted to a substance or activity. So Nila, can you start by telling us a little about yourself and who you are today outside of addiction? Then we can get into the substantive.
Well, outside of addiction, I pride myself in firstly being a mother to a beautiful young man. I work with various persons who are suffering the malady as well. But that is still within the realm of substance use disorder. I have a wonderful small knit family. You know, my mother and I are very close. I have friends who are very close. So I'm very family oriented. Try to be a little God centered, involved in church and those kind of aspects. But more than anything, like I said, I really live to help others to understand that, you know, just because something had happened to you, it doesn't have to be substance related. There's always hope for tomorrow.
Yep. And as you began speaking earlier about how your journey began, when you look back now, how did that journey begin with substances in your life?
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was thrust upon me environmentally, and it obviously I wasn't a full blown user from the age of 9 or 10 or whatever, but I was introduced to it at a young age. But however,
Introduced to what?
to just alcohol and cigarettes, and not marijuana or anything, because I'm 43 years old, so it wasn't decriminalized when I was little. But I see the young ones now being exposed to it now at an early age
Yeah.
Right, but who you were introduced to it by?
by family members and families of friends.
So
So-
let's stay here for a bit, right?
Yeah.
Before we move on. Now, you grew up. How big was your family?
My family was small, but there were always friends or family. So, you know,
Gatherings,
in
right.
Trinidad, everybody is your auntie and your uncle.
Right. So you had so you all normally have these gatherings at home
If you go to
with people
beach,
invited and drink,
if you go to beaches, if you go to weddings, if you go to funerals, those kind of things.
and
And it's always there.
alcohol was always part
Yeah.
of. So you couldn't have a lime, or a family couldn't have a lime without that. They had to have that to be
There
part
was,
of the.
it was always in existence.
Right. So that's that's the environment you grew up in. So let's take it from there.
Yeah.
Right.
And but after, I'm telling you, that wasn't that was the
Introduction.
precursor.
Right.
However, when I started studying, that was probably the major impetus, because in tertiary education life, it was when I was UE back then, had a bar in the middle of the campus.
Yep. I remember those days.
It's closed now, but
Yeah.
I mean, there was it was the norm to break your classes or after class,
Go in the bar.
debrief your day
De-stress.
and de-stress with going to one of the bars around campus, in or around campus.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was really where I kind of started doing it on a daily basis, and on a more regular basis and progressively. Once upon a time, one drink would last me for the whole evening, because I used to just like to be a part of the lime. But then eventually it grew to I'm needing to go to the lime to have the drink. Yeah, or and then it progressed to other like you said, I am a poly user, so it progressed to other substances over the years.
So let's on the campus. Is that bar still open?
No,
No, no,
no,
no.
no,
They shut it
no.
down
They
now?
had to shut that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they shut that down.
It was very disruptive.
Because of course, just like any other bar, would disagreements and emanate
and
from
stuff.
and fights and the campus. They would cause that. Is alcohol we talking about?
Yeah, well, I didn't really witness anything like that, but I have heard stories the next day of when, because we would start in campus and then move to another area, walking distance, because I wasn't driving then or whatever. So I know of incidents, but I was never witness to them, so I can't speak to that.
Right, but alcohol seems to do that. In gatherings, everybody come in normal and looking sober and cool, and from the time things develop and one heated word and that's it. Everybody just lose their mind and start going
Yeah,
after
well,
each
I
other.
fall victim to being one of those persons when I was under the influence, like something that would roll off of my back on a normal occasion would stick in my head, and I reach boiling points and have an argument or have an outburst where you can't reason with me at all. So I remember at very young ages, at a very probably 1920s, wanting to come out of a moving vehicle, having a fight with persons who drive in and have no logical response to what's going on. Everything was a reaction, no response, but reacting to things. So I am guilty of doing those things.
And at any point during that experience at university, and so when you left, your problems continued, I imagine.
Well, yes, and when I left, it continued in a different way, and again, it is a progressive disease. So even if I stopped, because there were points when I stopped after UE, and I focused on on getting a profession and focused on my career and trying to build on that. So there was a gap in between where I didn't use any substances at all. However, I'm of the opinion, the disease concept, which is that drinking and drugging is but a symptom of the disease, right? So I still had those character defects, even in the absence of the substance. So I still had anger issues, I still had shame issues, I still had self-esteem issues, I still, those kind of things, but they showed up in different ways other than drinking and smoking and drugging.
Yeah.
But when I started to really be comfortable in my profession, I had my own money, I was independent, and then nobody could really tell you what to do anymore. So that was dangerous for me. And I always gravitated toward the persons who would have a liquid lunch, who would have an after-work lime. I never really gravitated towards persons who had peaceful personalities. It was always like a dramatic group of persons that I liked to be around, because chaos was something that I was accustomed to. So that is part of my character defect, that
Right.
chaos is and trauma from early life and all of those things. So it was more a more comfortable setting for me to be in, rather than sit down quietly and have a conversation.
Yeah, instead of just going to line with people, but essentially to drink and do drugs.
So were you the one who, let's say, pre-liming, and I decide, or I pass and I show some word for Natasha, and a little thing, you and jump in that, right?
I mightn't jump in. No, I don't like conflict, but I would like people who exciting and who used to drink and drug. Not quiet persons.
Natasha.
Drama.
Yeah, not drama, but I chose every relationship I had was with a drinker or a smoker. Every friend group that I had were with drinkers and smokers. Those kind of things. Not people who wanted to have a study group or do an extra course or go do dancing or go to a hike or things that I enjoy now. I enjoy those things today, but it never appealed to me when I was younger.
No, you know what I am concerned about, because when I was studying too, with some students from this. That was part of drugs and all of that was part of it. It helped. Some would say it would help you study and all these different things, right? But, and, I don't know why there was never a concern from society, because people going to university are future leaders of the country
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this
in
is-
most times, right?
Future fathers, future mothers.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we have those people corrupting their brain from, with substances, because it's an aid to achieve, we will have people going into office with the same problem if they don't, because some people use it as a crutch, as I said, as an aid, and never be able to let go of it.
Yeah.
So we could have people actually assuming positions of
Power
different
and
in,
authority.
in the protective service, and this is why it's so heavy there too.
Yeah.
So this is why I think it's
concerning.
something that society really overlooks and don't really care about, but it's there.
Agreed. And I wanted to just talk back or ask you, in your profession now, on your line of work now, what you mentioned about your personality, your character flaws, basically, does that connect with the whole concept of an addictive personality?
Well, that's a good question, Natasha. But those are things when I was mentioning it before, I have completely processed and dealt with
Right.
during my 9 years, 11 months of recovery. So I am really grateful for the 12-step program, and I dealt with those character defects in 4 and 5.
Gotcha.
So it doesn't affect my life today. It doesn't really affect. There would obviously be indicators that come up, but as soon as they arise today, I recognize, okay, well, this is my jealousy, this is my anger, and I don't let it build to resentment. I don't let it build to something that would fester and affect me so that I have a relapse in my brain, and then probably a year down the line relapse and it with a substance, or it affects my profession or my family life, because
Gotcha.
I work very closely with my sponsor, and I work very closely with a support group, so I am happy to say that I can recognize when something's happening to me, and I have a toolkit that I carry around. I will go make a meeting, I will call my sponsor, I will put pen to paper and write down what is happening to me. I would journal, those kind of things, so it doesn't creep up in my, knock on wood, it don't creep up in my professional life today, because I have set the foundation. When things got really messy and I hit that rock bottom that we probably will talk
Yes,
about
yes.
later, I worked from there, and it was a very arduous journey. However, thank God for my sponsor and for the 12 steps and for the program on the whole, that I have actually relied on it as a tool that I use on a daily basis.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are broadcasting from the studio. We speaking with Nila, and Nila, who was a poly addict. Now, you describe yourself as a poly addict. For those who listening and don't understand what a poly addict is, because remember, one or two people asked us that already to describe what a poly addict is. Could you tell us?
Or a poly user.
A
is
poly
it,
user,
Right.
yeah, because we
That
want to
is-
get rid of the word addict, you know.
So a poly user,
Yeah.
what were your drugs of choice
Oh,
as a poly user?
Well, when you all asked me that over the phone, I say, well, anything except needles, right? But
Okay.
so I was.
Outline them, because there are people
Yeah, I'm
listening
going to
who are going
outline
to the
them. I started gateway with alcohol, a little drink. I started with cigarettes. I call all these things drugs. Alcohol is definitely a drug for persons out there who don't think it is.
Yes.
Alcohol, cigarettes, marijuana, and cocaine. And cocaine and alcohol were my drugs of choice. Yeah, but they went hand in hand for me, you know. So I would be like a chemist to myself. When I get too drunk, I would probably level off with having some cocaine so that I could keep my wits about me.
Right.
And for a lot of years, I was functional enough that nobody thought I had an issue until it progressed again.
crack cocaine or powdered cocaine?
Both,
Both.
yeah.
So you, because to have access to powdered cocaine, well, I mean now powdered cocaine knocking dog, because,
Everybody using blow now.
I mean, someone described to me that
That's
children.
what I hear in my line of work today. I am very shocked and surprised that it is so available.
Prevalent, yeah,
it
and
wasn't available to me.
Right.
No, we don't know.
If we had to go
it's-
far and wide to access it and buy in large quantities.
Yeah.
But now it is a lot more available and prevalent.
No, we don't know, and that's the danger, because remember there's also pink cocaine, right? But we don't know if what the youngsters now, because I have seen, remember Daniel told us too, that he saw young people in parties putting it on the index finger and snorting
The
it.
purity of it, you mean?
Right, so we don't know if what they're getting now is pure cocaine, or cocaine that have been stepped on 3-4 times.
Yeah. Also,
You know,
there is the
it's-
concern that they crush anything. The route of administration to snort, right? A lot of young persons now, they crush Molly and
Yes,
snort it.
and
They
snort it.
they crush any kind of tablet and snort it. So I mean, it don't have to be cocaine. Is not the only thing people use in that more fashion. The route of but it gets into our system a lot faster when you use that route of administration.
Yes.
So what was life like at the height of your addiction? How were you working at the time?
I was working, like I said, it was functional at first, and then it overtook me where, in the rooms of AA and NE, people they break it down in such a way that they'll be like, well, the walk was getting in the way of my using, so I had to fire the walk. So
Right.
I had a little savings. I used that to rally through. There were a lot of traumas in between then and there that I used as excuses and justifications for using,
Nila,
like deaths of loved ones
Hold
and
on.
so on.
Right.
Yeah.
So for there are people listening to you who they think they have situations like that. These 3 people I know of today.
Right.
So could you, for their sake, so that they can identify if the same thing happened in their home?
Yeah.
So because that, who you were living, you were still at home with parents?
Yes, I was still at home because I was quite young.
Right.
Right. So I was in my 20s, and well, in Trinidad it's normal for persons to still stay with their parents, right? I had moved out at one point in time, but moved back in when my brother passed away. So when he passed away, I moved back in, but my addiction, my substance use disorder was off the charts then, so I really wasn't of any assistance to my poor mother. I was more of a problem then, so I was home, and I should say that who I was staying with before was somebody who I used to use with, an ex who I used with on a regular. So the death of a loved one, and I used that as even more of a reason for me to numb my pain, quote unquote, to cope with the persons around me. But I isolated myself, and I used it as an excuse that I want to be alone more than ever. Don't come around me. I'm in grief. Don't do this. I'm grieving. So that happened to me.
So you would lock up in your room,
I would lock up in my day and night.
and what you would just go and buy stuff, and how
Well,
did that go?
it changed again. It progressed, right? So at some point, I would get persons to deliver. In Trinidad, it's very easy for a woman, I would tell you, guys, to get anything they want, really. So when I wanted to have a drink, I would go out and probably have not $1 in my pocket, but get good and proper drunk at the end of the night. Right? So I would have it delivered. I would go out and probably buy it. I would, however it is, but I had to have it. And that brings me to something that is very important, just to mention that the using is not really so much of a problem, but the drug seeking behavior is something that have to be mentioned, because there were times when I would be sober for, let's say, 4 days or 5 days because I didn't have it, but my brain not in this room, my brain on the outside of how am I getting this? When am I getting this? And I can't function. I can't, my family would tell you that I in a room and I not hearing nothing anybody's saying because my brain not in this room. You know,
Literally not functioning.
it literally can't function. And if I didn't use, if once I have something in my pocket, I calm. But I was frazzled if I couldn't have it. So the seeking behavior is also a symptom. The drug seeking behavior.
And I think this is what non-users and relatives of people who use don't understand, is that your brain is literally being hijacked by the drug.
Yeah, it is.
And that your sense of reason and logic and
Yeah. It's
conscience
damaged.
is damaged.
It's brain
Right.
damage.
So how did it affect your family, you and your mom, the relationship? Did she know? How did
Yeah.
she find out? How did she find out?
Well, it was Trinidad small. Everybody was talking about it. Once you go to the block once, everybody know. Oh, well, she in the block. So, once you talk to a certain person who talks to a certain person, they know.
Yes.
And then there were also indicators like how I started to look. So this is the height of my addiction we're talking about, right? You asked me to mention the height.
Yes.
I was extremely small. I was not taking care of myself on the outside. I always had a horrible cough. I was not eating. I was not sleeping. So, I mean, my physical appearance on the whole was worrisome. So I looked really ill, Anybody outside of the house, nothing good happens after 1 a.m. Anybody outside the house after 1 a.m., they're up to no good. That was another indicator. So I didn't grow up like that. I grew up under a strict, in a strict household, even though there was liquor around. It wasn't, and even though my family engaged and indulged, they're not alcoholics. And that's something else that people need to understand, that not everybody who would use a substance would become
An addict.
a problematic user, So it was just difficult for her to understand. She would be like, so why you could have a drink, but why can't you just stop at 1 or 2? No. 1 is too many, and 1,000 is never enough for me. How my brain was destroyed. The pleasure center of my brain was gone. I couldn't enjoy normal things anymore.
So you said you were working at this point. Did it affect your?
Yeah,
your
I
job?
left the job because I could not use at my own.
Oh.
Yeah, my job sent me at one point to employee assistance. So, and I didn't really take advantage of it. Again, I would tell you, I was young, so anybody who tried to help me was an enemy. Anybody who tried to help me was telling me that I had that I was the problem, when I pointed all my fingers everywhere else. That you don't know
Me.
they don't understand what's going on with me, so you can't help me.
Right.
So I left
Denial,
it.
denial.
I was in real denial.
So what some of the excuses that you used so that to make me think that really problem
Oh,
is
well, I would say illegal if I were talking about alcohol. Everybody drinking, so I would say I'm young. Let me enjoy my life. I'm using my own money.
Right.
I would say, what else I would say? I'm not hurting anybody. Until it did, all those things affected, it progressed afterward. So those are some of the excuses I used.
no. Let's go back to whom your mom and dad, they were still alive.
No, my father had passed away.
Right.
already.
So your mom was dealing with this.
Yeah.
Now, having seen my mom struggle and cry every day and all of that, did your mom go through the same thing with you?
Yeah.
And
She did, and it's a touchy and really sensitive subject, because I love my mother more than I love anybody. Probably my son is the only person I love more than I love her, and I hurt her tremendously, and I might get a little emotional while we're talking about it, but
that's all right, there's a program for
yeah,
that.
and she tried her best. I blamed her a lot
Oh wow.
during because it was just her and I blamed her, and I used her. We use people too. We don't just use substances. I used her as a scapegoat. I I damaged her a lot, and I used her damage, her past damage as well, because we have to remember that our family, they're not perfect either. People don't. If I must if I want people to accept that I am not a perfect person, I have to accept that you are not a perfect person as well. So I expected my mother to be perfect and used her imperfections against her for me to use. And I make living amends to her now by not putting her through anything like that. But it took a minute. It took a minute. And there are I should also mention that she suffered not only watching me suffer, but I used straight through my pregnancy. She had to look at that. We didn't know that I was pregnant because I was so small that by the time I recognized that I was already 5 months along, and tried to terminate the pregnancy, but far along. So God was in control. God was in control. And shortly after I found out I was pregnant, he was born prematurely under emergency circumstances. Both of us almost lost our lives. You would think that I would have stopped, but I did not.
So you got pregnant for your boyfriend or somebody,
Yeah, I was seeing somebody. Still wasn't licks enough, right? So that I could hide to youth, because when you're young, you're genetic. You're young. So the fact that it was masked a little bit, they just thought that I had a problem solely with alcohol, which would have been enough. But I stopped drinking when I found out at 5 months, but the damage was already done to my body, and he was born prematurely. And then after I had the surgery and could have moved around, I started back using again, and I used so much so I had accidents with him in the vehicle. I had couldn't wake up to take him to school, to preschool, all these things, and it is difficult to talk about, but women out there need to know that we don't. If you make these mistakes, quote unquote, all you need to do is ask for help. Help is out there. Hope is out there.
Now, before we go to a break, again, addiction is never a pretty discussion, or being controlled by a substance is never a pretty discussion. But there was something that I learned in NA as well, and Beverly always used the term, a man may run out of things to sell, but a woman always has something to sell. And you should understand what I'm talking about. Was that part of your journey as well?
No, that wasn't part of my journey. But I wouldn't say that I didn't sell my body. That's what you're talking about, right? I didn't reach there. However, I had relationships that were not loving relationships.
They were transactional.
So they were very transactional relationships, but thank the good Lord, it was just one relationship that I used that poor fella. Plenty, but it was not, it wasn't like that. I didn't reach there so much, but I did not have a loving relationship.
So you stole from him, you used him.
I asked him, I used, and that is the father of my child,
Right.
So that's what it started, how it started, and it was an unplanned pregnancy, and everything now has tied together well in that we co-parent in a healthy manner.
Yes.
But I have damaged him a lot, so much so that we probably don't speak the way that we should, but I have to give time to heal it.
Absolutely. But
So,
as we talk
sorry,
about
go ahead.
about being a woman and being a user as a woman, are there any unique challenges that you faced in terms of stigma? You mentioned relationships, or how people responded to your struggles as a woman.
There are unique barriers. There are barriers on the whole to anybody who is suffering from substance use disorder, And there are especially unique barriers for women suffering substance use disorder. And I see it and hear it every. We have a meeting, a women's meeting, three days for the week, and I hear it with every newcomer. So they don't want. Most of them used to be closet drinkers or closet users, not me, right? But they don't want to be looked upon as somebody making
Fails.
fails.
Yes.
You know, they if you're like that, they're looked upon as promiscuous. They're looked upon as easy targets. They, you know, so the stigma of just being a loose woman,
Yes.
the stigma of being a bad woman, a bad parent, you know, this just stigmas attached to you can't handle your liquor, those kind of things. That you try to be normal, but you're not. So, but there are more barriers and stigmas attached to women attempting to get assistance, where especially if, you know, we hit so much rock bottom that we don't have a job, so we can't pay for treatment, we can't pay for childcare, we can't ask people for help because people give up on us because we quote unquote hopeless. You know, so those are unique barriers for women, you know, and women on the whole, you all would know, we made up genetically differently.
Yes.
So we can't metabolize substances as well as a man. So you will drink two and I will drink two and you good and I
Knockout.
blacked out or
yes.
something. Not
Yes.
really knocked out, but not in my right senses. So, you know, it's not educated to us. It's not well informed. You know.
But is it that as well you find that women are expected to be
Perfect.
correct
Yeah.
and to heal ourselves? It's like we
Yeah.
can't have any problems that need solving. We have to figure it out ourselves kind of way.
And, you know, sometimes women are our own enemy because we compare ourselves. Comparison is the thief of joy, you know. So we compare ourselves to other women
Yep.
who we don't know are suffering as well, you know, and we want to be like that and emulate that person and try to keep it all together. But
You're very good at hiding these
yeah,
things.
we are extremely good at functioning, but being dysfunctional at the same time.
Yes.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking with Nila. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we get deeper into this. And how did Nila reach her, what we describe as a nuclear blast? It's for those of you listening out there, we have that referral to do just before the end of the program, because we know there are a number of families in Trinidad and Tobago that are struggling with a relative or two who has an addiction. Believe it or not, it's bad. Whether it's to cope with the stresses of life or inherited, whatever, because there's also the addiction of gambling. That too,
Processes, yeah.
you know, is just as devious as a cocaine addiction. So keep that in mind. There are families who are struggling with. I know a husband and wife right now. You know, the wife is addicted to casino gambling, and they almost lost their house. You know, because of she not paying the mortgage and he didn't know, and that's a whole nother story. So let's go to a break, and when we return, we continue the discussion and conversation here with Nila. Welcome to all of those on the I-95.5 FM, Facebook, and YouTube.
Don't
Please.
forget to like the live when you're there, whether on Facebook or YouTube. It really does help the channel.
Yeah, and you may be enjoying the discussion this morning, so the stream will stay up. That's another mystery that we continue to deal with. But let's go to a break. We'll be back. Stay right there.
Mr. Dobson here from HMP London. Can I speak to Mr. James, please?
This is Mr. James speaking.
Thank you. Can you hold the line? I have a call coming through to you, sir.
Sure.
Hello, Daddy.
Hello, yes, Brian?
Daddy, I'm just calling to tell you that locked up in the UK for drug trafficking.
Oh, yeah? You lock up? And you tell me I was going to Tobago? And I tell you about them boy I was liming with? Well, alright. Don't drop the soap. Carry on.
I on Dependency. Reality radio at its best every Sunday on I 95.5 FM.
Slavery, a terrible time in our history. The kidnapping, buying and selling of people for profit, the exploitation of another human being. It still exists today. It has a new name, human trafficking. Anyone can be a victim. There is forced labor, sexual exploitation, and domestic servitude. Human trafficking is a worldwide problem and an emerging concern for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. If you know of or suspect human trafficking activity, call the counter-trafficking hotline at 800-4CTU or 800-4288. Human trafficking is a crime. Identify it, report it, stop it. A message from the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security.
Join us this Sunday for episode 34 of I on Dependency, where every life is a biography.
This Sunday on I on Dependency, we hear a woman's story of addiction, which is usually dominated by men's voices. This time, we sit with Nila, a woman who has been in recovery for almost 10 years. She opens up about her journey with substance misuse as a poly addict, the struggles, the stigma, and the hope she found in recovery.
My name is Neela, and I have been in recovery for 9 years and 11 months. This is my story.
A woman's story of addiction and recovery. Honest, powerful, and necessary. Listen live this Sunday from 10 a.m. on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the I on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. The Counter-Trafficking Unit, Ministry of Homeland Security brings you I on Dependency. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
Thanks for staying with us. This is I on Dependency, and in studio this morning we have Neela, who is telling us about her journey with substance use, and we were just at the point where we were going to ask her about her nuclear blast or her turning point or her rock bottom, however you want to phrase it. But this is the point at which a substance user becomes so low, at such a low point, that they have nowhere else to turn, and they eventually make their way to some form of recovery, or they decide to accept the help that is being offered. What was your nuclear blast, Neela?
Well, there were many. Like I said,
More
Right,
than
so
one.
before you go,
Yeah.
you never been to prison, right?
No, I've never been to prison.
Right, but there are some, take us on that.
Well, I mean, I learned in the rooms that of treating three places you can end up: jail, institution, or death. I ended up in an institution. I ended up in a rehab center. However, that journey to rehab was, let's say, one whole year of nuclear blast. You know how they have bombings in Gaza on a daily basis?
Yes,
There were
yes.
bombings in my life on a daily basis.
How so?
The unmanageability of everything, the fights, the turmoil, by then my son was 4. The threat of him being taken away from me, the threat, all those aspects.
By his father or your
Yeah,
mother?
by his father. By his father. And just we had an intervention. There was my family, my friend, a friend of mine, together with my mother, my son's father. My son was present as well, and there was a professional, actually a policeman, not a professional. They organized an intervention.
Okay.
And that intervention went so bad. It went real bad. But it helped.
Well,
When-
tell us
It went
what
bad.
happened.
What
It
happened?
went because I was very defensive. I felt ambushed. I felt like, look, all you bring this stranger in here to talk to me. And I lashed out on every other person who was in the room trying to help me. So I was saying, Natasha, but you do this. God, you did this. So I tried to switch it on them
Yep.
rather than look at me. And that is the denial again. And
So you stormed out?
no, I sat there. I really did sit there, and I sat there because I really was miserable. And there is this saying that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I really was. I really, really was. And even though it went badly, and some cuss words fly, and I throw everybody under the bus, it helped. It was a turning point where I actually recognized that I'm hurting everybody around me. My circle, which was once very big, had become non-existent. I was living a lie, and I hadn't really recognized how people make me out. I thought I was still being functional, but I wasn't. Everybody make me out.
Speaking of circle, so as being introduced to crack cocaine, I started smoking with one or two people. But then after I got greedy and I wanted all for myself, I didn't want to share.
I never
anything.
used with people.
How did it go?
I isolated and used.
Always by yourself.
Always by myself.
All right.
Always by myself, and it's probably good. It's probably for a
No, it's a good thing too.
Yeah.
It is.
So I always used it on my own. I drank with others, but cocaine I always used on my own.
So the after the intervention, what happened? You went to the rehab, or you just
After the
promised that you would?
intervention, I went to rehab. Thankfully I went to rehab. There were some barriers again where whoever had to pay for it, because I had no money.
Yes.
Whoever had to pay for it was studying. Well, I'm not going to spend this money and then she come out and she do the same blasted thing again.
Right.
How I supposed to know that? Because it ain't cheap,
Right.
Correct.
right? It ain't cheap.
It's on the hill.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, but women facility.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I'm a product of New Life, and I have not got, thank God, relapse since then. I've received a very good program there.
So it's once you went to rehab.
Once. That's
Lucky
what
you.
I'm saying. I was done. I was done.
No, before we go, let's go back a bit, right?
Yeah.
When in using,
Yeah.
now we know crack cocaine is a very expensive, and powdered cocaine, very expensive habits. Just say on an average, how much a day would you have spent on using?
Well, this was 10 years ago, right? So I've probably spent $200 a day, or 300 or 400. Depends
A
on
day.
however much money I have got, it was going to drugs. It was.
Your son was neglected because of that?
Well,
School books,
no.
nutrition, clothes.
He was neglected in terms of time, my time. Like I said, if he was in my care sometimes on a Sunday, I would binge on days, and that's a good question that you're asking, because most persons think that because you have a substance use disorder, you're using every day, right? Yes.
For me, it was every day.
Right, but it could look different, right? So when his father and I split, when his father had him on particular days, on weekends, and a particular day, those would be my days to let loose.
Right. When he
Right?
wasn't
So
around.
on a Sunday, he would bring him to me, and on a Monday, I have to take him to school. But on a Monday, most Mondays, I can't get up to carry him to school. But when he was in my care, I tried my utmost best not to use. But like I said, I wasn't present. The drug-seeking behavior is still there. I waiting for him to probably take
Thinking
a nap.
about
I waiting for this and that. So he was neglected in terms of probably I didn't play with him enough, or I was a little less patient with him. But I still, I'm thankful that he wasn't neglected completely. And because of my mother again, he always had loving arms to go to and play while I sleeping upstairs or something, do that kind of thing. So that was how he was neglected. He wasn't beaten. He wasn't whatever. But I did put him in dangerous circumstances. Like I said, I drove under the influence of alcohol. I did have an accident.
And he was in the car.
Yes, he was in the car. I made poor choices where I thought I was normal. I thought I could have handled myself. So those are the ways that I neglected him, and I feel very a lot of remorse for that, and I have dealt with it in my 4 and 5 steps as well. But I can't remember how we got here though. So
no, he was asking about your drug use and how much you spent per day and that kind of thing.
Well, it's an expensive habit, and I did not whatever family heirlooms and thing I had. I did go and didn't have a piece of jewelry remaining when I came out of rehab. So when they finally took me to rehab, it took me a minute in rehab as well to actually realize what I was doing, because I was hiding behind the facade of being educated, being so I tell people now, it takes smart people a longer time to catch themselves.
So you went in rehab as Miss Ting?
Miss Ting.
Right.
Miss Ting. Right?
Yeah,
I want to tell them that, you made a spelling error on the board.
Yes.
Something like that. I can help. I can help you, God. You in rehab with me, and I can help you. Well, this is your problem. I counseling.
Right.
I go,
So I guess they had to pull you up many times.
Oh gosh, yes. Every they pulled me up plenty, and I'm very grateful for it. I had a lot of humbling to do.
Yeah. I could tell. Did you ever end up in that? Because I always say to people, even in workplaces, they should do this exercise, where they put you in the center and form a circle around you, and everybody tell you about you, and you just have to sit and listen.
Oh yes, well we call that peer review. So that is part of the program.
Right.
So
you went through that.
Everybody had to go through it if they want to reach the stage of about to graduate.
Right.
Right. So peer review. Yeah, you have to you're in the hot seat. You have to shut your mouth and listen to how people perceive you today, when you came in, how they perceived you since you've been there, and what you need to improve on.
In work environment, I always recommend this.
But it's supposed to be an appraisal, God.
Yeah, it is. But like people who, let's say for instance, this building or where you work in, Natasha, where everybody walking there with their chest high and
would not
chin in
end
the
nicely.
air.
It would not. I don't know. It's just
that's a HR
nightmare.
But the day here HR say, all right, we having a day, we shutting down here, and everybody come to the auditorium or come to the conference room, and we sit and let's start with Tamika.
They're called team building exercises.
But you will be surprised.
Your yearly appraisals or your 6-month appraisal or whatever. So it does happen, but in a different kind of framework.
Yeah, but people will be surprised that it will help a work environment greatly.
It helps your family life, everything.
Yeah, because you don't know. These people are saying monkey don't see your own tail.
Yeah,
correct.
And that's the thing, right? And what I learned to do, one of the skills I acquire in rehab was how to take feedback. So not everything. If you tell me something, I wouldn't take it in how I used to take it before. Feedback, we choose not to call it constructive criticism, but that's what people like to say they're doing, but it still have the word criticism in there, but it's feedback. Yes. I'm telling you that, you may perhaps this is just a suggestion, Yeah. And that's something that I was able to learn how to, because I used to just lash out at my counselors. Or lock. We know how to shut people off. So for the first 2 weeks, I just shut everybody off.
You had a roommate?
Well, it was an open dorm. So I had...
Oh, it was
a
open dorm.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was about to... So after the intervention, you didn't go to rehab right away, right?
I went to rehab probably a month after, when finances and everything get sorted out.
Right. So... But you continue to use after the intervention.
Yeah, I was trying to use as much as possible. So even I remember on the way there, I kept begging.
Let me just get one more now.
I
Let me just take a-
have it. I just wanted them to stop the vehicle so I could have one last one, one last hurrah and finish it.
Yeah.
And I told when we got there, I had to surrender everything, and I tell them, well, I have this. Let me go outside the gate and finish it.
Right.
But
Didn't let you do it?
No.
I was running away and do it. Because when I was doing Cora,
I had nightmares about that last
you
bit.
making joke. When I was doing Cora, I went to Cora, right, the first rehab, and when I dropped in by the gate, I had 2 balls on me, and I went in the back and take a hit. Before,
Well, as soon as remember the man dropped me inside the gate, inside
So
the
you couldn't
compound,
do it,
so I
yeah.
couldn't leave the compound. In the compound, you can't leave the compound, and you could. It's
I
not
was
a
fine.
it's a voluntary program. It's not a jail. People hear institution and think you get locked up, but it wasn't. It was a very humane facility.
Of course.
It's not a 5-star hotel. It's not a 5-star resort. But it was there to provide me with the nutrition I needed, the counseling I needed, and the mirror that I was avoiding. I was not allowed to wear makeup, wear certain types of clothes, jewelry, anything that I used as a mask to pretend that everything was okay was taken. So yes, you were shed only to see yourself. I was only allowed to see Nila. And boy, oh boy, that was a wake-up call. When you had to see yourself for what I created. I created that mess. So it was really, really hard. But I'm very grateful for the experience, and I have not looked back. I have only added to my toolkit since.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking with Neela. Neela is here to help some of you families out there who has a family member struggling with a substance or activity that's actually destroying their lives, and you just have to sit back and look at them destroy themselves because you've tried everything. Nila, before we get into the recovery now, and we know it's not a one-time event, right? But you stayed the entire course of the 3-month period at the rehab facility?
Yeah, and by the end of it, I actually was so scared to come out. I wanted to stay longer, but they
Talk
they
about
told
that a
me it
little
was
bit, and what was going through your mind in terms of what you were prepared to face on the outside.
Well, girl, it's so hard. Firstly, I was going to graduate around Christmas time. Christmas time is a trigger. My birthday is Christmas Day. I always used to do certain things on those days. So I was scared. I was real scared. What they told me lovingly and very carefully was that fear was a healthy fear. Right? And it meant that I actually held some kind of value to the 90-something days or 100 days that I was sober. And I valued it, that I didn't want to lose it. So with their professional, experience, I graduated and went home. But I was scared of the environment I was going back to. The block is very close. The blocks are very close. I didn't really trust myself. But again, it is a family disease.
Yes.
Within the program, my family was also thankfully open to receiving certain forms of support from the facility as well while we were there. So my mother and everybody else did learn what was happening to me, how it was a disease. My using was not because of a weakness in my willpower, but because I'm suffering a disease like diabetes or something, right? And I needed treatment, and my treatment now was, some people is land up in the hospital. They go sugar reach coma high and they land up in the hospital, and then they learn how to manage it. So they learn that I am learning how to manage my disease. I am not a bad person or wicked, evil person, but a sick person trying to get to my healthiest point.
Yes.
And they also learned what not to do, what they were doing to enable me. how to support me, what I'll be doing. I sell out myself in all aspects. This is where I used to hide this. This is where I used to hide that. So before I got back to my house, I changed rooms. I was lucky enough to have another room, so I didn't sleep in the same room that I used to use in all the time. I cleaned. I tell them every hiding spot because I had nonsense in the house. So tell them everywhere I used to hide things, and I went home to a different space, so it felt different. You know, I was allowed to go to meetings and nothing else. I had to learn how. I had a discharge plan, so it's good to have a plan, right? The same way you would have a plan on how I'm going to get the substance, is the same way I had to have a plan on how to avoid it. So I had a plan. This is what I was going to do for my day. I didn't just, if I spend 9 hours of the day drinking water and I'm no longer allowed to drink water, what am I going to hydrate with? You know, so they didn't just take something away from me and replace it with nothing. I had to replace it with healthy routines and healthy positive activities.
Was that an easy transition for you to make? Or
it was difficult. It was really difficult because I hardened. Right? I was hardened. I was very own-wayish. I like to have, and I was accustomed. I taught myself how to do the wrong thing for so long that unlearning a bad habit, I had to give myself time to unlearn it.
So did anybody ever show up in front of your mom's door and say, yeah,
that had happened before rehab.
Yes.
Yeah, so that happened before rehab, and she paid them off.
And it happened more than once, I'm sure.
It happened twice or 3 times or something.
Yeah.
But I actually used that excuse to get money from her when it wasn't true.
Right. Right. I'm just going to talk about that one too.
True.
Yeah.
So I actually lie and say, "Mommy, oh gosh, something going to happen to me if I don't," and I get some money. If I extort money from the lady.
Yeah.
By getting her scared that something going to happen to me.
And she do anything until she give you the money.
Yes.
I
you are guilty of the same, yeah?
I wasn't so slick. I
actually owed people.
I used to steal from my mother. I stole from her. Well, 1 or 2 neighbors in the area would come and Mr. God say you sell him to borrow some money, and mommy say if you could give her, and that's the thing. I would go by from neighbor to neighbor and say, mommy say if you could lend her so and so and so.
Yeah.
It's nasty. It's degrading. It's humiliating for any family, and especially when you grow up with a family with pride, full of that kind of pride.
Yeah,
and
well,
protecting the name.
You can't save your ass and your face at the same time, right? So that saying has stayed with me from the first day I hear it, because I was trying to save face. And like you say, I was Miss Thing. I wanted to be Miss Thing in rehab too.
Yeah.
I wanted face only. I didn't want to save my life. I was close to... It's so sad. 2 of the girls who roomed with me are dead today.
Wow.
Oh,
right?
they relapsed.
They relapsed and they died. One of them in particular, she had lost a kidney. She had lost a front. So it was outwardly she was more serious, but she would have been the same she would have been 10 years and something today if she was alive and clean. But she relapsed. She didn't do any of the protective factors. She didn't go to meetings. She didn't stay in the middle of the tribe. She didn't keep in touch with people like us. She didn't stay away from slippery people. She didn't stay away from slippery places.
Just now, hold on.
Yeah.
Natasha, we were talking about that, and we want you to take the listening audience through that step, what a true person or what true recovery is, and that journey is on a day-to-day basis, even minute by minute, right? Because there are some people who feel that they can live the same lifestyle when they come out of rehab and the family thinking, like, okay,
now,
$2,000 now. So we'll talk about that, right?
Yeah.
But there is another addiction too that's hidden in plain sight that I want people to understand exists, and is porn addiction. As a professional, have you ever experienced or come across people who are addicted to pornography?
Yeah, so it's not just substance use disorder, but it is process use disorder, behavioral, issues. So yes, I have come across many over the years, many young men mostly, women again probably, if they are if they do have an issue with pornography, they have not yet come in to receive any help. But out of 17 persons that I've seen over the most recent couple years, probably 10 of them are porn addicted to the process of pornography. So far, so that they have endangered themselves, that the porn not working on the computer anymore, but they have paid persons to enact stuff in front of them, and have probably not screened who they're having relations with, and all of that they will be in danger of getting STIs or STDs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it is something, and again, we want to not stigmatize them. We want them to actually realize that again, the availability of pornography now is rampant. So just the fact that you see it, and you probably saw it at a young age, at an age when you were very impressionable, that you've become accustomed to it. It's normal for people to send you on a WhatsApp, not safe for work videos, this and that. You're sharing, inappropriate videos with your friends. So much so that you get accustomed, and a bad habit is easy to form. And they're unable to, the same way with a substance, to function in everyday life without probably excusing themselves from their desk and going to the toilet, and they're there for half an hour watching porn. They're in the car watching porn while they're driving. They're in the car, they're at home, they're churning outside, but they're not with them, they're watching. So just because it's something that not killing your body doesn't mean that it's not a problem that you need to get a handle on.
Absolutely. And it affects relationships just the same as a substance use.
Yeah, because wives tend to feel unappreciated. That's what I'm seeing these days, even though the husband loves their wife, they just cannot shake it and cannot function intimately without
porn.
Without porn, yeah. Married couples, yeah. So they and what happens in the bedroom happens in the bedroom a lot. But I mean, if it affects one or both parties, then it's something to look at.
It's a problem. And of course, if it veers into the realm of minors involved in pornography, that's a whole other layer of criminality, really.
Of course, yeah.
Okay,
well, I would have to report such.
Yep.
So I have a couple of questions. Let me just get out of it. Margaret would like to know. Well, that was New Life Ministries, Margaret. That's where she went to New Life Ministries. They have a program for women as well. And, well, of course, there's also Serenity Place, Beverly Mawson, with her place down there in Cochrane Village. Rosemary wanted to find out, after all these years, if you ever had an urge to use.
Of course, and that is something that we learn on when we're babies in recovery, and that just because you have an urge does not mean that you're going to use. Urges are normal.
How do your urges come?
They manifest themselves in different ways. Either I might have like a using dream. That's a normal thing, where sometimes I wake up in cold sweat because the dream is so vivid that I say, oh gosh, I can't believe I relapsed. But I haven't had them in a while. But these are ways that they have over the 10 years manifested themselves. Sometimes I'll be watching a program, a movie, a show. Somebody take a deep pull of a cigarette, my mouth start to water. Somebody, a smell of a perfume. This happens to me. I can't wear a certain perfume that I used to wear when I used to use, because that scent triggers me back to 12 years ago or 14 years ago, when it was happy time using.
Yes.
Glamorous using. So I can't wear that perfume at all. So sensory triggers cause me to have little urges, where the urges are not they are not that I want to use. The urges come where I remember using.
Go back to something you said just now.
Yeah.
And our society, when we never understand it or they refuse to understand it. You were sitting here watching the television and somebody take a drag of a cigarette and you get triggered, right? We have been begging the advertising of alcohol on television, how it affects people. And it seems as though we can't get through to anyone. Because I remember there was a time I came from exercising. That was years ago. And I saw an ad, that's when Caribou used to advertise on TV. And somebody poured that ice cold beer in a cup on TV. And I felt like drinking a beer when I saw that, because I was just sweating, I was thirsty, and tired.
And you've trained yourself to do that for years.
Yeah. But they don't understand the dangers of doing that on television.
Yeah.
And carnival time, there's a saturation of ads from Angostura. And over until I learned the jingle by heart. You know, no,
But
they
even
don't know
though
how that
that-
affects
The
recovering
situation
alcoholics.
has changed a little bit. It has changed in that you no longer see people actually consuming alcohol.
It doesn't-
You'll see
yeah.
them pour it. You might see them have a glass in their hand or the bottle in their hand. You'll never see them consume it. But as you mentioned, the link between the youth and the attractiveness, the sexiness, and the fun.
Yeah, well,
and
that's a different topic. But
That is-
in terms of my urges and watching those ads and things, again, your foundation. If you really make up your mind, and thankfully I have persons who really make up their mind, who have admitted that they have an issue, right? You have to live life on life's terms. We can't, the same way I was frightened to come out of rehab. I can't live in a bubble. I can't live in the rehab for the rest of my life. I can't bring my son there. I can't educate him there up to university. I cannot live in a bubble. So, and the same way we know that some people who would drink, they're not all alcoholics.
Yeah.
Some people, we can't close down them companies. We can't do it.
No, we can't.
Right?
I mean,
But-
we've come to live with that. We
Yeah,
cannot.
we live life on
but
life's
they
terms.
need to understand too as well.
Of course.
They need to differentiate themselves from the pusher on the block. You can't go and ask the pusher on the block for money to carry your child rehab.
No.
Or to educate the public on the dangers of crack cocaine.
Yeah.
But you would tell yourself that educated people who are sitting in these positions know that there's a fallout from the drug that they're selling.
Yeah.
And they now need to not just build a park and send people on scholarship, but you need to do education as well. And let them know the dangers of the drug
product
that
that
you
they're
selling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for a good time, all right, the nectar of the gods, or whatever you want to call it. But the thing is, there are people who it destroys.
Of
There are
course.
families that it destroys. And this is what we've been trying to partner with them to do, but they don't want to do that. And that's unfortunate.
Well, we will have time. Give time. Hopefully, this will be the genesis of something that we could do together.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. But you mentioned something like to teach and to whatnot. The same way my son was very privy to my using, and to see the negativity of what happened to mommy when mommy do this and he is also very privy to my recovery. And I wanted to make sure before we run out of time when
yes, what role did family and
substance use disorder is a progressive disease. It gets worse and worse and worse given time and whatever you use, but recovery is also progressive. So relationships are repaired, your health could be repaired, your life can turn around at the turning point. After the bombing, we rebuild.
It does get better.
Yeah,
after
it
a
gets
while.
better, but any change is uncomfortable and stressful. So the fact that some people try to do 90 meetings in 90 days without professional assistance is another route that they could use, but it is stressful because we use that cigarette, that whatever, that vape as a whole other story to cope as a mechanism. So we had to find another mechanism to use, another strategy to de-stress, to have fun, to get the dopamine running through our veins. You like to exercise, things like that. We have to find healthy and positive outlets.
Yes. I have a question from Facebook from Brenda, who asked if you could talk a little bit about the connection between mental health and substance addiction, and how did your substance use affect your mental health?
Well, we have in the steps, right? The step 2. God tell them what step 2.
I've come to realize about addiction.
No,
my
because
life became
step 2 is the
unmanageable and
no, that's
stuff
step
like
1.
Yeah.
Where you come to believe that there's a power greater than yourself, and that your life had and that could restore you to sanity, meaning that you're insane, right? When you're using the definition in dictionaries is that insanity is that you do the same thing over and over and I expect a different result.
Yes.
When I get drunk today, I would say yesterday I would say, well, I wouldn't drink hard liquor or Baileys or whatever. I would stick to one drink, one type of drink, and I wouldn't get drunk. But the same thing happened. Same nonsense.
Yes.
Right? So there is a level of insanity that most persons suffering with substance use disorder have in that aspect. Now, what Brenda is asking is a more complicated question, where there is the co-occurrence of other personality disorders and substance use disorder.
Yes.
Where, every drunk person could look like a crazy person. Every high person could look mad, quote unquote.
Yeah.
However, when off the substance, that's when they have to be professionally assessed to see if they have a personality disorder. So, families would, if you care about them, you could go to the psych days in your clinic and take your loved one there and see whether or not they have high levels of anxiety, mood disorders, that would be bipolar,
depression.
Yeah, psychosis is something that you see. Marijuana induced psychosis you see on a daily now.
Yes.
Because the THC levels in vape is high. The THC levels in the cannabis now is so high. So a professional has to assess whether or not your loved one has a mental, quote unquote, mental illness. However, I do see a correlation between persons who do have personality disorders and they don't know what it is going on with them, and they try to medicate themselves, and they feel like if they leveled off when they have a smoke, a drink, or whatever else, they feel normal. So if I, for instance, am bipolar and I'm moody today, I would say, well, when I smoke some weed, I will feel normal. So that people tend to, the person themselves, the individual who's suffering the personality disorder, the mental illness, tends to medicate themselves first before seeking out professional assistance. And the same stigma that is attached with substance use disorder is attached to mental illness, and it shouldn't be. Receiving any form of help is help.
So, if you just join us, you listen to Dependency, and we are speaking with Nila, who's taking us through her journey of recovery after being a poly addict. She's now 10 years clean. But
well, 9 years and some months.
Right, but then when did you actually, or the let's say step 4?
Yeah.
That happened in rehab, before rehab, or after?
Well, it was all the steps were introduced to us in rehab, right? However, a person could take years to be done with step 1.
Yeah.
Right? Step 1, as you would know, is the step that has to be done 100%, where you admit that you're powerless over the substance and that your life had become unmanageable. You can't move on to step 2 if you don't think that you have a problem.
Well, and this is the issue that I'm trying to raise here for people out there to understand that there are people out there who think that you can just, you must admit they have a problem first. I always tell people that I cannot help your son unless he admits he has a problem.
We can't admit it for them.
Exactly.
I can't say you have a problem and then you magically realize everything.
Yeah, and taking that moral inventory now, that's what I asked about step 4. Yeah. Taking that moral inventory that I had to do on many occasions, and
I still revisit it.
And this is why I was able to come and do start Dependency with NASA, because I had done that moral inventory and realized I really messed up. Now, what about family now? Because I have certain family members who have not forgiven me for
And that's fine.
yeah.
It's fine, yes.
That's
it
Just last
is.
week I was saying that,
Leave them
you know,
to their
but
own devices.
That's
you
fine.
explain that to them to let them hear it coming from you. The family who still want to hold up that mirror to you, always reminding you of your past. How you deal with that?
Well, I dealt with it. I deal with it by process, and that step 4 was hard, right? And you would know at the end of that sheet, you put your fears or your resentments and who you're angry with, who you're afraid of, what you're afraid of. You write how it affect your life, and at the end of everything in this program, you figure out what part I had to play in it. So I figure out what part I had to play in it. So if, Natasha, you don't forgive me for taking your bottle of water, and I replace your bottle of water, but you still don't forgive me, then I had to acknowledge that what my part to play in it is. I violated your space, and I did something without asking, and it is your prerogative to hold it, because you didn't go through that moral and fearless inventory,
Right.
where you recognize that you probably had a part to play in it too, but I have to
Acknowledge
accept it.
yeah.
I have to own my mistakes.
Yes.
And that form of accountability is something I had never done when I was in active use. You know, I would find every which way and reason to blame other people for what they had done to me, because people wronged me as well. But you can't force people, and that's where the serenity prayer is helpful.
Yeah.
You know, where I recognize that I cannot there are things that I cannot change, and I have to have the wisdom to recognize what I could change and what I can't change. And most of the time, the only thing we could change is ourselves and our thought process.
Yeah. You know, it's so unfortunate that and I'm glad you asked me about this step, because I just running through my head and my mind now, and you know that we talking about step 8 here now, right? Making amends to people that we hurt and all of that.
Yeah, well, step 8 is the list.
Yeah,
so the list alone could take you a while.
Exactly.
Right?
And,
So just
but
because you make the list, don't mean you had to automatically go to step 9 and make the amends.
Right. But I tried that, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, and so much so that I'm grieving today because of that. And not all because my sister and I are very close.
Yeah.
You know, but there are others who are around us who are on me that insist on holding up a mirror to my past all the time. And I have had enough of that. And I came to the conclusion, hey,
That could be a trigger for you.
I said that last week. It can be.
Yeah.
So would you advise people out there who going through that, what should they do?
Well, that is keep it simple, right? And I just had an excess. Keep it simple, stupid, right? I talk to myself. My self-talk has changed tremendously. I try to talk to myself positively. I will say, I tried. Beat yourself up with a feather guard, not with a bat. You cannot change the person.
Correct.
What I learn about how to stay clean and sober. Stay away from slippery people, slippery places, and slippery things. The slippery thing is the substance, or the slippery place is the bar or the block, or sometimes your own house. You had to move. The slippery person is me. I change myself first, and that other person who not using, but who reminding you of your past so much so that it is hurtful to you. That is a slippery person.
Didn't I say that last week?
You can't be around that person.
Thank you very much.
Right?
You know, I was beating up myself about
No.
it. But I said, you know what? If I have to stay sane and sober, then I need to cut this person off.
Yeah.
Because it's no point me being around you just and feeling that tension all the time.
You're trying to people please again.
Yes. Yeah.
What you doing? That is a symptom, guys, of this disease. You try to please everybody at your detriment.
Yep.
So don't do it.
Thank you.
And the thing is,
you helped me come in here this morning. So,
right. The 12 steps is a very spiritual program too. So if they would tell you to step forward, step 5 it with your sponsor, and at the end of the day, when you surrender, and you can't surrender it alone, you can't just cut them off just so. Say a prayer and surrender it in the proper way.
Yeah. Natasha and I have discussed this on many occasions.
Yes.
And because it bothered me, it kept me up at night.
Yeah.
It freaked me out to know that you know, why can't you look at what I'm doing now?
Yeah, but
And,
you're not
you
You're
know,
not the same person.
Listen,
You're not the same person,
but that is something that you probably did while you were using. Trying to prove yourself, prove your point. You could tell me that this red, and I know it blue, and I'm not going to fight with you no more.
Yeah.
You could either choose to be right or choose to be at peace. Right? That's something that I have learned. I used to fight down the most every battle. Every battle. Now I choose peace. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not. There are times, I mean, I fly off your handle and things sometimes, right? But I mean, majority of the time, I'm not going to fight with people who think that they know something when I know differently.
Right.
Nila, before
Sorry,
we have to wrap up, but there's a question that has come up a couple times on Facebook that I wanted to ask her about in terms of your son.
Yeah.
And the risks of
his life,
yeah. and what happened when he was born. Were there any issues?
Well,
and what is your history of heredity when it comes to addiction in your family?
Well, I believe that I have a genetic predisposition for a substance use disorder in my family, right?
Okay.
I wouldn't go into that, but it's everywhere. My son now was born prematurely, like I said. He was 3 pounds. He did not spend any time in the incubator. He was touched by God. I honestly believe that he is touched by God. There's no way that I could understand. If somebody who listening could call me and explain it to me how he living today, call me and tell me, because my entire afterbirth, my placenta came out in the middle of the night. It was a very traumatic visual, and there was a lot of blood involved, and the doctor from Mount Hope found his heartbeats where it should not have been. He lived for, he crawled up somewhere and survived without that placenta giving him any nourishment for a while.
Wow.
So there was emergency cesarean. He, like I said, he was very little, and they sent me and him home after 3 days because nothing was wrong with him, really. He didn't need steroids for his lungs. He wasn't born with withdrawal symptoms. But like I said, I had stopped when I found out I was pregnant. But for the first 5 months, I was using, right? But I was sick, so I really couldn't keep down substances. I kept vomiting and whatever. So whatever things happen, how God had divined it, But today he is 15. You swear to God, nothing wrong with him, or he was never.
He's a healthy.
He's a healthy young man. He is a teenager.
Yes.
But well adjusted. He has a lot of hobbies that are positive, and I try to encourage him in every which way to enjoy life without the use of anything mood or mind altering.
Right. If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we thank you all very much for staying with us. Those of you on YouTube and always coming through for us, Facebook, thank you, and of course I-95.5 FM. Let's go to a quick break, Hinkson, and when we return, let's look at the last step now. This is what we're doing here, helping others.
Yeah.
And I want you now for let's say a family listening to you right now, their son, daughter just came out of rehab.
Right.
What is expected of them?
Okay.
And how should the family operate with them?
Cool, I can help with that.
Nice. So let's go to that break. Hinkson, take that short break. We'll be back right here on our Dependency.
Hello. Hi, this is Patricia Kent from HMP London. Can I speak to Miss Sheila, please?
This is Miss Sheila.
Hi, I've got an important call for you. Please hold the line.
Mommy, it's Sherry. Oh, God, Sherry, we looking for you all the time. 3 weeks now. Where you going?
Mommy, according to tell you, I get locked up. I had drugs in my luggage and I'm in England right now. In jail.
Oh, God, Sherry, what? What you do? How you reach there? Oh, God, how we going to go?
Oh, God, Mommy, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. It'll be all right. Sorry, sorry.
Eye on Dependency. Reality radio at its best every Sunday on I 95.5 FM. Don't miss.
Ah boy. Feel like going and buy myself a senorita tonight.
Nah. You know you might be promoting slavery.
Slavery? What you talking about?
Hey, modern day slavery or human trafficking is just what some of these people just do. You know some of these women were tricked to come here? Some are held against their will, abused, and even beaten. Most times the girls don't even see any of the money that is paid for them. And every night, they just have to come out looking nice and sexy for somebody like you. Human trafficking is a serious problem and a serious crime. Persons who solicit commercial sex services may be contributing to human trafficking. A message from the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National.
Hello, my name is Raquel, a trainee inmate at HMP Drake Hall, Staffordshire, England, and you're listening to Iron Dependency with Garth and Natasha. Please, people, don't traffic drugs. The money is all that nice. It's not worth it.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Eye on Dependency, and we're having a very, very important conversation with Neela, who is in recovery for almost 10 years, and she's going to share with us now what families, loved ones need to know about their loved one who is now entering recovery, who's just come out of rehab. What are the steps that they need to take? What are the things that they need to avoid? What are the things that they need to do to help and support this person in recovery in the first early days and then throughout this stage of recovery?
Right. Well, we were talking earlier about how, sometimes you're lucky you will have a discharge plan if you've entered a facility, right?
Yes.
They wouldn't just let you out empty-handed
without any
right?
kind
So you have
of
some kind
guidance.
of preparation.
Yeah.
If your loved one though did 90 meetings in 90 days and you hadn't gone to Naranon or Al-Anon or anything, I would recommend that they go to those support groups.
What is
so
Naranon and Al-Anon? So for those who
so those are support groups for the families of. So the families of the person suffering from substance use disorder, because it's a family disease, you also need to learn what your loved one has been going through. You also need to learn how to shed the resentment that you have against your loved one for what may have transpired while we were using, right? So those support groups are mind opening. They are very raw and real, where you hear the experiences of persons who, just like you, had been trying to hide what had happened over the years and couldn't hide it no more. And you reach this point now where everybody is trying to heal. So it's a positive support group. So anything is support group, right? So if you have a discharge plan or not, these are some of the things that you should try to do. Don't roll out the red carpet. This is not something to be celebrated. This is going to be their lifestyle. This is my lifestyle now. I don't need my mother to cook me three meals a day and award me with a ring and that kind of thing. People tend to make the analogy between a recovering loved one to the prodigal son in the Bible. Where the father ran out and put the ring on him and kill the fatted calf and this and that.
He's not cured.
You're
He or she is
happy.
not
Yes,
cured.
you're happy, and you are happy, and you're probably a little bit scared that it happened, that it relapsed. They relapse all over again. If they do have a co-occurring disorder, they would have to take their meds. You have to allow them to go to meetings. You support them in those ways. It's support, not enabling. So, you try and figure out the difference. Do not, when I came out, I give my card when I started back to work. My bank card went in my mother's hand. If I had to buy a box of KFC, I had to ask my mother, I want a box of KFC. Because money is one of my triggers. If I have money in my hand, I will use it for something. That probably. I mean, I was very serious about recovery.
Yes.
But still, you don't want to go to the bar with your friends. You don't, you know. Just because I was at 90 days clean doesn't mean I could go back and lie with the same people and have a, you know. I had to be very wary of where I went and who I went with. So you don't reward them on a daily basis. Yes, they might need a device or something to go to Zoom meetings or whatnot. But if they have a past of selling devices and stuff, you know,
Give
use
them a
your
me
brain.
too.
Use your
Give them a
brain.
me too.
Use your brain. Carry
Because-
them to a meeting instead of giving them a device to use it on Zoom. Let them go to a meeting.
Because I had
and
a friend who got an iPhone and he sold it, but he
He sold
pawned
it.
it.
Right.
And the mother had to send money for him to go and get it again. And so because anything that can be bargained with,
Yeah.
you don't give them
Right.
money. So let's say I am working, I come back as a man. Because as a man it will be a little more, you know.
macho.
Yes. So should I still collect my salary or should I let my wife or my mother?
Yeah, let your
or
wife and let your somebody who you could trust, a trustworthy person, manage your finances for as long as you think they need to.
At least a year or two.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, when you if you are working with a sponsor and you are doing the program honestly, you would know when you're ready.
Correct.
You would know,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And if you're really serious about it,
Yeah.
you would know.
Yeah.
Give yourself, allow yourself, the family member, a break.
But what about alcohol in the home now?
No,
If-
well, that's
talk about that now.
I'll get into those things too,
Yeah.
right? So the most mothers and fathers and things, and wives, they think that they had some kind of responsibility for their loved one being in this situation.
Yes,
That's why they just roll out the red carpet. It is not your fault. It's not your fault. You probably had a little part to play, but it's not your fault, and you cannot cure them. Just know that. The faster you accept that too, the faster you can move on.
Yep.
Having alcohol and stuff in the house is a very touchy situation, touchy topic. I would recommend not having it.
Or lock it away if there's
Lock
alcohol.
it, but I mean, it had any lock you couldn't pick,
Well, yeah, that is true.
right? I would recommend not having
having
it.
it at all.
Yeah, not having it at first. At first, and again, it's the same thing with the money. There might be a time when your loved one would be comfortable around drinking scenarios, and we learn about it in the book, the Living Sober book and stuff, you know, how to deal with it. You tell people, you could either break your anonymity, like I break mine all the time and say that I'm in recovery, because everybody knew I was using. So I'm in recovery now. Or you could say that you're allergic, you're fasting, blah, 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 you're not drinking today. You know, those kind of things. But I would recommend not having the substance, if that was the substance in the house, not having it there.
Yep.
And if you find yourself as the support unable to do so, perhaps you may have a problem yourself. If you can't live without having a bottle in your house, that means you probably need to look at yourself as well.
But like you said, we will know when we're ready, right?
Yeah.
Because Natasha and I had a tour of a cannabis store. And I didn't get triggered to say, well, go back to my drug of choice. You know,
You had a what?
a tour of a cannabis store in Canada.
Well, we visited a cannabis
Yeah.
store and spoke
Oh.
with the owner,
Yes.
and of course all of the products were there on display. and
You
stuff.
throw up a stick now, it'll land on a cannabis store in Canada.
Right.
Because they have plenty.
Yeah,
Right?
it's round
But
one.
we were able to sit with the lady. She showed us all the products and everything. And I didn't feel like going back to,
Yeah.
you know, to hit
Yeah,
in because, but you must know when you're ready. Somebody
Exactly.
coming out of rehab cannot put themselves in that position.
No,
Exactly.
no.
So
You're a
you-
baby.
Yeah.
You're a baby in recovery. So don't test yourself. I
Test
know of
yourself.
families who put the bottle
Yes.
there to say, I'm gonna see what she gonna do. You don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't test your loved one. There are people who, you know, the same way people will have bets on your head. People, you know, some people want us to fail.
And when they do relapse, the reaction of your family members not
Yeah.
understanding that relapse is a symptom of the disease as
Yeah,
well.
it is a part of recovery at
Yes.
some points. There are different stages of recovery where you pre-contemplate, you contemplate, the stages are changed. You know, we don't want to go into make this sound like a lecture, but I mean, your loved one, if they don't maintain their sobriety, bet your bottom dollar something they're gonna relapse in their head, and then after a few years or something, they're going to probably hit the substance. There's a difference between quality sobriety and quantity sobriety too. They have people who just abstinent, but they're real miserable.
Yeah.
They don't understand how to love another person suffering with substance use disorder, how to understand them, how to treat them, you know?
You know, as you say, I remember the first time Natasha gave me a bank card. I smiled to myself. I said, girl, you're so lucky. You're so lucky.
I,
you know,
fortunately, I knew, I didn't know him. I didn't meet him using.
Right.
So I wasn't aware at that time of
his past.
His past and what the risks were.
bank card on a mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have called everybody to find out where God going. And I see them about 2 weeks later. You know,
money is a trigger. Money is one of the biggest triggers
No.
for shopaholics, for food
Gambling
addicts,
addicts.
for substance.
Yeah.
Money is one of the biggest triggers because that is transaction you had to conduct. You know.
So before we run out of time, we want to show you the reason this program started.
Yeah.
Is because I wanted to find out about me and why. I was the
Right.
only person in my family who went left.
Right.
And I couldn't understand it. I got mad at it and decided, call Natasha from a payphone in Flatbush and say, I coming home. Let's do this.
Right.
This has taken us after 24 years, we were able to do tangibles for Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Just last week we visited and we were welcomed, and the respect that we were treated with is amazing, and we want to thank the Correctional Services Canada for hosting us. And I just want to show you quickly before we run out of time. You know, Natasha, could you introduce it so that the folks can
Yes.
see? Because we're not going to show you everything because we have to package this and present it to the Homeland Security Ministry and Minister. So
nice.
So these are just some snippets of our visit. First to, which is a maximum, medium, and minimum security prison in one massive compound.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you some images from there, what we saw of the minimum security industries that they have at Collins Bay. And we also visited the Canada's Penitentiary Museum, where, I mean, you can see from the time from the late 18th century to today, some of the weapons that they have seized from inmates, and also, interestingly, a drone that they intercepted at Collins Bay in 2020.
You see this
Video, start with video A, short man. This has no audio, so we can talk over it. Images of the minimum security industries. They have a farm. Oh, that was quick.
Those are the
Short
weapons,
man.
yeah.
These are the weapons, shanks and shivs that we
The
saw
machete.
at the museum.
Yeah,
Very innovative. We know how prisoners are innovative, right? So you see all of the.
Well, necessity is the.
This is the drone that they intercepted. It's a DJI Inspire 2.
Wow.
That was intercepted in November. Okay, we're going back to this one. So they have a laundry, they have a farm. You will see pictures of cows and everything in the field. There's a workshop. I think it's a
woodworking, probably.
metal welding,
Yeah.
you name it, they teach them.
Well-
You know, Canada has reached to the point where if you come to prison, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But you do have a choice, but you will leave
With
a
a
good
skill.
citizen
But
and a skill.
as I'm looking at this, I'm Orange Grove. They have this. They have farming. They have farms, woodworking. The prisoners, they make the meals. They do. I can't remember how many meals per day. 3,000 meals per day.
This is where?
Golden Grove.
Golden Grove.
Oh, Golden Grove.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm very happy to say that soon enough Golden Grove will have a TC within the facility.
Well, let's hope so, because
We
we've
really
been
hope so.
advocating for that for years.
It needs
and
to
it
be
had
done,
one and, they were shut
and
down. And,
we're heading in the right direction, guys.
No, but you
I
see
would
this.
hope so.
you
And
see
one of the
what we
things that
saw?
we also saw inside the facility, we toured, they have a harm reduction suite where
Really?
prisoners can go and
Mm-hmm.
use. They have a menu. They can choose what they want. They go into a room.
They had, I think,
And-
they had that kind of experiment with one part of Canada, the entire town, that was
Mhm.
kind of like Skid Row,
Yep.
where they allowed persons to do what they wanted.
And this was a piloted elsewhere, but it is
Yeah.
now being rolled out to prisons across Canada. But this at Collins Bay, which is in,
But they allowed a menu.
they have a menu.
You
Yeah,
telling
we
me I
saw
What
saw,
on this
saw a
menu?
long. We saw
different needles, different
needles.
types of drugs that they can choose from.
Yes.
Different application methods.
So is it? But you see, I
It's
don't
a harm
understand.
reduction sort of.
Yeah, I
and a
understand
step
harm
down.
reduction.
Look at the size of this drone.
Yeah. Oh my
You know,
God.
and they captured that.
And it had tobacco, marijuana, 6 cell phones, and tools that could be used for an escape, including
58,000.
Canadian. It's worth.
Yeah.
Look at the value of the items that it was
Yeah.
carrying.
And
So they do have a problem with drones as well. It's not just in Trinidad,
Well,
but
Trinidad
they
learned
have
from elsewhere. 'cause
drone
that was when-
detection technology in Canada, which the warden asked us about. If we have that, no, we don't have that yet. But they have the technology that will help them to detect these drones when they fly over to drop contraband into the prison.
yeah.
But it was a really interesting visit. We got to speak to a lot of the workers in there. They have a psychologist, a whole social work team on staff there to deal with the inmates. It's a lot. And the officers that showed us around, I asked them, how happy are you doing this job? And one of the officers said he rated his job 9 out of 10.
Because they have the facility.
They're
that-
well paid.
They're well paid. And not only that,
They have the resources
they
to
have
do
the
what needs to be done.
They have the understanding that when you make it comfortable for the prisoners, you make it comfortable for the officers
as well.
That is the mindset out there, and we love that. It was like walking. You couldn't believe you were in a prison, really, because of everything, all the activities going on, all the big thing we make about TV here. You can buy your own TV out there if you want.
Yes.
One that is, of course, authorized by by
prison.
CSC, but you can buy your own TV. We didn't
Because
see
we
a
got
slot
to-
pail yet.
Got to
You know.
speak with some of the inmates and saw one of the minimum security cells that is outfitted with a TV, radio. They have
Yeah.
access to the medications they need. They have their own living space. They have a communal space that they lime in, a kitchen.
But it sounds more like a rehab. Yeah.
Right.
Well, prison is supposed to be rehabilitation.
And then the part of that I like too is the work release program. The once they do it, the is
They try to
maximum,
fit
minimum, and what's the other one? Maximum, minimum, and
Medium.
medium.
Yeah.
And they get up every morning,
And the
like they're
minimum
home,
security, yeah.
and they go to work, and they come
And
back.
come back.
They
But
go
that
to
was
work,
one of my
and they
my
come back.
my actual
You know.
dreams to have like one of those transition homes where, I mean, obviously when persons have used for so long, they don't no longer have a place to live, you know. So, but when they finally catch themselves, they want to go and work, but they don't have. I want to remove that worry of where you're going to lay your head at night, you know. So that's hopefully something like that could happen again. you
This
know?
was a great experience for us again. We even spoke to an assistant warden. We have an interview with her. We spoke with
Who's
the
a
person
trainee, by the way.
who's a trainee, by the way.
Find them everywhere.
And also, it's the person in charge of the health
services.
for
For the correctional
the
service. of
correctional
Canada,
services
yeah.
Canada. I mean, it's a big operation.
It's a well-oiled machine.
Well
Yes,
oiled, and
yes.
we are hoping
Massive.
we already have the infrastructure. That you see that fence that we have next to the MSP.
Maximum security.
Yeah, I think it's time now to clear that and let's start to build. And because what we saw, you didn't have a picture of the outside of the penitentiary, Natasha.
No, I
But
didn't.
we'll show you all that later on after we
They
present
call
it to the
Disneyland.
government. They call it Disney World because of how it's structured. You know, it looks like a castle from the outside.
Well, we are
but
products of our environment, is what I started by saying. If you're exposed to certain things that are uncomfortable, you're kind of setting yourself up for.
Tamika, let's take some calls.
Yep.
We will take one or two calls before we wrap up. 622-3937. If you have anything to ask or say to Neela, now is your chance. Give us a call, 622-3937. Again, that visit to Collins Bay opened our eyes. I mean, they miles and miles and miles ahead. But
they have similar problems. What I took away with it, they have the same problems that we have. It's just how they adapt and
deal with it.
Put resources towards solving those problems.
Yeah.
Really for the benefit of the prisoners and not anybody else.
We must learn, and the same way I would say, even though I'm in recovery, it doesn't mean that I have no problems. But I adapt to my problems differently. Yeah. I no longer go straight to a drug, So it's the same. Yep.
622-3937. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, God, Natasha, and your guest.
Morning, ma'am.
I want to tell your guest how pleased and impressed I am for her honesty and everything. And excellent program as per usual. Now, I want to talk about that campus, my experiences and so on up there. And I'm glad that they have closed down the bar, what have you. I remember leaving classes and going to my car, and young people who might have just left school, college, and they were drinking out of the trunk. I didn't hear talk about that part. Drinking out of the trunk of their cars.
Yeah.
And the stench, when you passed there, it was something else. And I complained bitterly to lecturers and so on to do something to maybe save the young ones from themselves with that alcohol up there on that campus. But they didn't take me on, but I continued. So I am glad that they have closed it down, and I want to thank you for your honesty. And I said the only thing she didn't talk about was she talked about the band, so she didn't talk about people drinking out of the trunk of the cars.
Right. Yeah.
So I want to thank you all. Excellent program as per usual.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
caller.
622-3937. Good morning.
Morning, God.
Hey,
morning,
Natasha. What's
Natasha.
happening?
Morning.
And morning today.
Turn off your radio,
rehabilitated there.
Turn off your radio. We get a little bit of feedback.
Good morning. Well, let me say to you, I stopped smoking more than 30 years now. Cigarettes. One day, I came into the car. I always buy my cigarette, always have money. I came in the car to light the cigarette. And the cigarette tastes so bad, and I was drinking a beer too. I throw some of the beer in the packet cigarette and throw it out of the car. I say, Lord, if I smoke again, to smoke. I never light a cigarette again. That's more than 40 years now. And I had partners who smoking cocaine, liming together with me. I mean, nasty smokers. And I used to miss my money in my car, but I never knew I was that guy because I never knew he used to smoke. He was so clever. But one day I stand on my line and I said, somebody's going to my car and take my money. He says, yeah, same fellow in the car here, the fellow pick up all the your partner, all the line all about. That's the same man that take your money. From the time you get out, you can't stand around, you're busy, you're thirsty, you have to run quick. So I want to tell you people who never smoke and listen to this program, stay away from that. It makes you a thief, it makes you ashamed. You're ashamed and you don't even know that you're ashamed because you're walking with your silicon pipe a day. Listen, thank you, lady, for sharing your experience, and I hope those people who still in the habit cut it out. You can just cut it out, just say, don't have to go to the rehabilitation center. You can go to it if you want to. Just cut it out, say, you see me? I ain't smoking again. And cut it out, leave it, forget complete about it. I used to be in a warehouse, we have cigarettes. I used to work in the airline. We have in the bond, we have all the cigarettes and everything, all the rum and thing. And I just cut it out one day, cut it out, and don't even think about it again. Well, I don't know, about 25 years and I stopped working. So I cut out that, and you can cut it out if you want to just cut it out.
All right, Manu.
So
Thank you very
God,
much.
thank you for the program.
Some people lucky to stop on their own.
Oh, yeah.
But
622
some people need the help.
Good morning.
Absolutely.
A very pleasant good morning.
Morning.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Good program, and thank you very much for your contribution. Now, I'm not going to discount anything that you said, but I would like to put some perspective to the program in terms of the triggers and the root causes of why people look for. And I remember Mr. God spoke about sexual addiction. So within the context of that, but not in a vulgar way, everybody needs what you call a crutch to lean on. Some people choose alcohol, some people choose profanity, some people choose sex, drugs, as the case may be. But let us come down to the triggers. And people drink they have social drinkers. If you go way back to America, under the Volstead Act, with Al Capone, where they realized that people have to take some measure of relaxation in a measured way. So are we speaking about extreme cases? What are the triggers? What are the root causes? And we need to measure it in terms of how people operate in relation to that. Now, people may go to the police service and apply for a firearm. Bandits have firearms all over the place for $2, and they wait in 15 years, and somebody else gets it just like that. They may go and take a drink off of it. You go to the bank trying to run a good business. The bank's behaving in a particular way. You may take a drink on that. So we need to explore more deeper endemic issues that may create people moving towards a crutch. That's my contribution.
All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Very much.
You take one. Hello. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning to the St. Clair's.
Morning, sir.
And
please.
The producer, and a special respect to Miss Mina. Miss Mina, girl, I like how you come out and you tell your stories.
Nila.
It's okay.
So that Lila or Mina?
Nila.
Okay, I'm glad that you came, and as you sing Trinidad, without shame, you told us your story so that it will serve as a warning lesson to us not to get involved. Because, as you said, sometimes just being with the crowd or in the place where you used to be now, it will trigger you to return to those negative ways now. So I'm glad you came. Thank you. And I hope that your story will help others from going down that narrow road. Thank you very much. God bless. Safe trip home.
Thank
Thank you very much. Now, today we heard a story we don't often get, which is a woman's voice in recovery. And Neela has reminded us that addiction isn't just a man's issue, it's a human one. Her courage to share her story gives hope to anyone who is still struggling in silence.
Yep, and alongside that, we also shared part of our own journey, Mission Canada 2025, from Collins Bay Institution to the Penitentiary Museum. The experience gave us new insight into how another country deals with justice, incarceration, and rehabilitation. It's an ongoing conversation that matters here in Trinidad and Tobago as well.
So we want to thank Neela again for appearing on our Dependency, for her honesty and her strength. And we also want to hear from you, our listeners and viewers. What stood out for you from Neela's story, and what are your thoughts on what we've seen and learned in Canada? And you can contribute online.
On Facebook, yes, you can continue to interact with the program. After we shut down here, you can go back to the page and get the program from the beginning. Your voice is an important part of this program. So keep contributing to the discussion via our social media channels. And as always, thank you for spending your Sunday morning with us. Before we give Natasha the final word, you any closing comments quickly?
I'd just like to close by saying thanks to you both for having me, and for everybody listening. There is no shame in acknowledging that you may have an issue. I don't really think that everybody needs support, yes, not a crutch that would be negative. Once it's detriment to you and your general self-esteem and stuff, let's find a way to keep you healthy and keep you happy in a peaceful way. And there's always hope. You can reset your life at any point in time. There's always hope.
There's always hope. You have been listening to Eye on Dependency. Please stay safe, stay hopeful, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Take care, folks. Major News up next with Mr. Kyle Saunders.
Good afternoon.